Have you ever felt like you're living on autopilot? Like you're doing everything right? Working, paying bills, posting a happy photo on the weekend. But deep down, something feels off. Like there's this quiet emptiness reminding you, this can't be it, right? Now take a deep breath. What if I told you this feeling isn't weakness? What if it's a signal that you're starting to wake up to a really uncomfortable truth? What if the meaning of life you were sold, the dream job, success, living in the moment, even the spiritual path, was just a script designed to keep you busy, while your life quietly slips away? What if your life is being programmed without you even realizing? In the next few minutes, we're going to dismantle, step by step, the hidden gears shaping your sense of purpose. And maybe, just maybe, we'll uncover where a real sense of meaning might be hiding. But before we go deeper, if this kind of reflection resonates with you, subscribe and turn on notifications. That's how YouTube knows to show you more content like this. Now, let's dive in. We're about to discover why so many people seem to have it all, but still feel like they have nothing. We live in a time where talking about purpose has become trendy. You've probably heard phrases like, follow your passion, discover your mission, become your best self. But no one talks about what happens after. What happens when you follow all of that and still feel lost? What happens when even spirituality starts to feel like just another product on a shelf? The truth is, most people are exhausted, trying to find meaning in a world that only teaches you to chase more success, more productivity, more achievements. But what if the problem isn't your lack of direction? What if it's the very ideas planted in your mind about what a meaningful life is supposed to look like? In this video, we're going to explore a truth that almost no one talks about. That maybe the purpose you've been searching for so desperately isn't out there to be found. Maybe it's about unlearning what you were told to want in the first place. And no, this won't be another self-help video full of pretty words and empty advice. We're going to dive deep into the roots of social programming, the hustle culture, the performative spirituality, and how all of that might be feeding the very emptiness you're feeling right now. So if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because here, we go deep, no fluff, no false promises. And I want to hear from you. What do you think? Do you believe the meaning of life must be found? Or can it be created? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, where did the idea that life must have a purpose even come from? Not practical stuff, not bills, or taking care of your family. I'm talking about that constant, nagging sense that you're supposed to be doing something greater, something meaningful, something that justifies your existence. But who told you that? That's the first domino that needs to fall. From the very beginning, we're conditioned to believe we have to become someone. In school, we're compared. In college, we're pressured. At work, we're pushed. And online, we're bombarded every single day. But what if the purpose you've been chasing so desperately was planted in you by a system that profits from your constant dissatisfaction? Think about it. A system that wants to sell you books, courses, products, lifestyles. First has to convince you that you are not enough. And so, the invisible race begins. You seek the meaning of life. They offer you a successful career. You want peace. They sell you a productive routine. You crave transcendence. They feed you a reel full of pretty quotes with soft music in the background. The promise is always the same. Once you get this, you'll finally feel complete. But the truth? That this keeps changing. First, it's passing your exams. Then, it's landing a good job. Later, it's buying a house, getting married, raising kids, climbing the ladder, traveling the world, building a legacy. Even if you achieve all of it, somewhere deep down, there's still a voice whispering, something's missing. That's the mechanism. And if you don't see it, you become part of a machine that only works if you stay feeling incomplete. This is the first major trap of the idea of purpose, because it locks you in an endless cycle of seeking, where the meaning of life is always somewhere in the future, never in the present. That cycle has a name: conditional hope. You keep hoping the next step will fix everything, but when you get there, there's just another step, and another. It's a staircase with no top. And the higher you climb, the further you get from yourself. How often have you ignored that quiet discomfort, thinking it'll pass, only to realize it was trying to warn you? This pressure to find purpose creates a paradox. You want to feel alive, but you're constantly trying to fit into a life model that's not really yours. And it's not even your fault. Modern culture is a master of creating ideal lives. Everything becomes a performance. Even the pursuit of purpose has become a show. How many times have you seen those purpose drone shots over mountains? Someone telling you to wake up at 5 a.m., journal, meditate, and chase your dreams. Nothing wrong with any of that. But the real question is, do you want that, or does it just look right? That brings us to the second problem: simulated purpose. We live in a time where you can live your entire life playing a role and be applauded for it. You can follow every rule, have an inspiring purpose, and still feel like you're pretending. Because deep down, you know when something is real, and you know when you're just repeating what the world told you is right. That sense of internal fraud, it doesn't come from failure. It comes from the disconnection between what you feel and what you've been trained to want. So here's the most important question so far. What if the purpose of life isn't something to be found, but something that begins the moment you stop trying to be someone you're not? That shift changes everything, because instead of chasing a ready-made destiny, you start asking, where did this rush come from? Why am I always in a hurry? Why can't I just exist? And it's in that strange space between goals and milestones that a quiet echo appears. A strange silence between thoughts. And that silence feels uncomfortable, because for the first time, you've stopped running, and you realize maybe purpose was never a place to arrive. Maybe it's a state of presence. Maybe it's hidden in the little things, in the way you look someone in the eyes, in the silence of your breath, in the honesty of saying, I can't keep living on autopilot. But this kind of discovery isn't easy. It takes courage to let go of the versions of yourself you learned to perform. And strangely enough, it's often at the exact moment when you stop chasing some grand purpose that you begin to feel something real, a kind of peace that doesn't need achievements to exist, a kind of silence that isn't empty but spacious, spacious enough to hold the real you. Before you started trying to become everything the world expected you to be. If we've just deconstructed the myth of purpose as a product for sale, now we have to face an even more uncomfortable truth. What if the search for a higher purpose is just a clever way to avoid facing yourself? Think about it. It's much easier to believe that your life lacks some big mission than to admit you might never have learned to be at peace with silence. Have you noticed how hard it is for most of us to just stop? Stop thinking, stop chasing, stop trying to be more than we already are. It's like there's a fear hardwired into us, a fear that if we ever truly stop, we'll have to face the void directly. And why is that? Because silence exposes. Without noise, without goals, without what's next, the only thing left is you, with your doubts, with your inner mess, with the questions you've been avoiding for years. That's the space where many people break down, because realizing you don't know who you are is way more terrifying than not knowing what to do with your life. A lack of purpose often isn't a problem with the outside world. It's a symptom of inner disconnection, a disconnection from what you really feel. And that can't be fixed with a motivational talk or a bullet journal. It starts with presence, with listening, with the willingness to sit down in your own chaos and say, okay, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm here. I'm present, and that's where something starts to shift. You begin to see that maybe purpose isn't a destination, a job title, or a list of epic accomplishments. Maybe it's simply how you relate to life, to this moment, to the people around you, to the small choices you make when no one's watching. It's in choosing to be kind, even when you're tired, in telling the truth, even when you're scared, in breathing deeply and feeling what's real, without turning it into content, productivity, or personal growth. Maybe purpose lives in the wholeness with which you experience the now. But the world doesn't teach that. The world teaches that value is in what can be measured, in degrees, in followers, in perfect bodies, in curated lifestyles. But the soul doesn't feed on appearances. The soul feeds on truth, on connection, on integrity. And this is where most people lose themselves. They spend their lives trying to look like they have purpose, instead of living what they actually feel. And here's the crazy part. Sometimes your purpose is hidden inside the pain you've been trying so hard to escape. It might be in facing that deep sadness, in allowing yourself to sit with the emptiness without rushing to fill it, in admitting finally that you're tired of pretending. Pain so often is a bridge. It's not the end, it's the beginning, if you're willing to cross it, slowly, without shortcuts, without trying to turn it into yet another goal. Life is not a problem to be solved. It's a mystery to be lived. And when you accept that, a different kind of peace begins to emerge. A quiet peace, without hype, without applause, without milestones, but full of meaning. Because for the first time, you're not trying to become anything. You're simply being. And that simply is everything. That's when you realize maybe purpose isn't about what you do, but about how you live, how you listen, how you look, how you care, how you love. And that kind of purpose, no one can give it to you, because it doesn't come from outside. It rises from within. From the moment you finally meet yourself, that's the real turning point. When you stop looking out there and start trusting what's been inside you all along. In the end, maybe the meaning of life isn't an answer someone can hand you. Maybe it's a living question, one you explore with each breath you take. And maybe the most honest thing you can do right now is not to try to find your path, but to walk present, even with no map. The truth is, you don't need a perfect plan or all the answers. You just need the courage to be with yourself, even when the world is screaming for speed. Maybe the most radical act today is to live with presence. And if this resonated with you, don't let the conversation end here. Watch the next video that's about to pop up on your screen. Sometimes, all it takes is the right idea at the right time. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.